The Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012, which was passed last December, promotes the right of couples to choose which family plan to follow, while also promoting the right of women to an education on their reproductive health. What are the provisions under the RH law? What government agencies are assigned to address the needs and concerns of couples and individuals under this law? Aside from family planning, what else does this law cover and promote?
Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Nepomuceno. Tonight, we will discuss your legal rights on the issue of the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act, or the RH law, and what you need to know about the RH law.
Our guest for tonight is DIWA Party List Representative Emeline Aglipay. Good evening and thank you for being with us tonight, Representative M.
Yeah. Just call me M.
All right.
Good evening, Karen.
Not Rep M, okay. Just M na lang.
Just M.
All right.
So first things first, a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
still really don't know what this law provides, even if some of them might be anti or pro. Basically, can you help us give the highlights? What people need to know about the law? What benefits does it offer?
The RH law, or the Responsible Parent and Reproductive Health law, actually is a fulfillment of our commitment to the Constitution and international law. So the Constitution provides that the state has an obligation to its citizens to provide the right to health. Mm-hmm. And this includes the right to reproductive health. Under our commitment to the ICPD, or the Conference on Population Development, it says there that reproductive health includes not only the absence of disease or infirmity with respect to our reproductive processes and functions, but also the basic respect for the right of the individual and the couples to decide without discrimination or coercion on matters concerning reproduction and their reproductive health, concerning the timing and spacing of their children, and whether or not have children at all.
Okay, so basically, on a practical level, will couples now, or even unmarried couples, be allowed to access either traditional modes of family planning or modern modes of family planning? So for instance, in the law, it was mentioned, diba, yung mga, for instance, intrauterine devices or vasectomy. So can now people access these types of family planning, what do you call them?
Devices,
or services, or supplies, even contraception, diba? Yeah. Is that part of the law?
So these services are made available, but for instance, if you're a minor, then you need to secure the consent of your legal guardian or parent, unless it's an emergency service that will be provided, or unless if the parent or legal guardian is a respondent in a case involving which would necessitate that
so you
service.
mean kunwari incestuous rape? Is that part of it? Okay.
No, so you don't need to secure the consent of the parent involved.
I also read
in the
pala
case.
as an exception, teen pregnancies. Is that part of it? So what type of assistance can they get from government agencies or other public health centers under this law?
For teen pregnancies, it's still since it's the teen is a minor, the consent of the parent is still
required.
Yes, the consent of the parent is still required if services are to provide it, except if it's an emergency situation.
Why do you think? And we know this. We can't hide this fact. It is obviously a controversial law, and most of the time things are controversial because of your lack of knowledge. And most people, in fact, I know, have complained about it, and I asked them, have you read the law? And they actually say no. So why do you think there's such a, I guess, a misinterpretation or a prejudgment on this law, and thus causing this controversy? And what should we say to the public that will clarify all the misconceptions about this law?
One thing I think that people often have about conceptions that they have about the RH is that it's all about distributing condoms, making it available to everyone, and violating the beliefs of other people, healthcare providers, for instance, who do not believe in some of the services that are being made available under the RH law would be forced to provide those services. They won't be. People will not be forced to avail of services that are against their beliefs and their religious or cultural beliefs. Healthcare providers will not be forced to perform services or dispense services or contraceptives if
Even
it's
if
against
it's
their
public
beliefs.
health service providers. So if
it's public health,
Public hospitals
they're required. Right?
are required to provide these services.
But
So
if they're religious
Yeah.
hospitals,
So what if
they're
you
not
have,
they're not
for
forced
instance,
to.
No,
a-
they have to just declare it under the IRR to the DOH, file an affidavit that these services are not going to be made available, and give the reason, state the reason why, prove that they are a religious founded health institution, or in the case of healthcare providers, they must execute an affidavit stating so.
But the exception to that is if it's an emergency situation, right? If it's an emergency situation, even if they're religious hospitals, they're required to provide the necessary services if it's an emergency
yeah,
situation.
I'll give an example. Kunwari, you
Abortion.
have someone who
Yeah.
performed, of course, abortion is still
Yeah.
illegal. So, illegal abortion. And then sometimes there are cases wherein things could go wrong
Yeah,
and
like
it endangers the
excessive
life of the
bleeding,
woman.
yeah.
So kung pumunta sila to a public health center or even a
Or
private
even
hospital,
private,
Even
even
private.
private
They're-
hospital.
would they now be compelled under this law to provide services?
Not
to
under this law,
woman?
by another law, to provide the service to in that emergency situation.
Now, what government agencies are supposed to implement the provisions of the RH law? I mean, we obviously probably the Department of Health. I
The
would imagine.
DOH, the Department of Health, is
Yeah.
the lead agency in implementing the RH law. But of course, this would necessitate the help of the DSWD with respect to catering to gender and human rights issues also, and we have the CHR, we have the DILG's help with respect to the local government units and provision of services and facilities through the local government units. So it's a concerted effort of all these agencies.
So basically, if I, let's say, myself or maybe perhaps my wife would go to a public health facility to get more information about family planning, and if I'm refused that information, let's say it's a public health center or whatever, maybe a private hospital, they can be held liable.
Yes.
They
Yes.
can. All right.
Refusing?
Refusing to
Yes,
give
yes.
family planning. Let's say I want to know more about, for example, not natural methods, but the other more modern, should I say, birth control methods. And then for one reason or another, because she just believes, no, I can't give you that. I'll just give you natural. She can be held accountable, right?
Yes.
So
And this is both for private health service providers and public, or is it just for public?
With respect to
Providing
information,
information, yeah.
Information, it's both. So
So mandatory,
Yeah.
private or public, kailangan. They have to give.
the correct information.
Yes, correct
Correct and
information.
complete information.
Yeah, if they have
with
someone
respect to-
inquiring.
Yes.
Okay.
all right.
But
now-
if, for instance, you're a doctor and it's against your beliefs to advise, for instance, on artificial
artificial means,
birth
oo.
control methods, then you can also opt for the conscientious objection exception. So.
So
there
you
are
can say,
exceptions,
I'm not
But
qualified to advise you.
you still have to refer them,
To someone
someone
who is
who can help.
and
willing.
it has to be accessible to that person.
Ah,
Alright.
okay.
And in the same consultation, you should make that known to the
I see.
person.
Okay.
All right, now this topic has sparked a lot of interest from our viewers, and we have a few questions from them. Starting with Marge. All right, for Marge, what benefits will women in general get from the RH law? Will only married and pregnant women be serviced by this law?
No. So both the law categorically provides that individuals, whether married or single, as we stated earlier,
Or male,
should-
male, female.
Yes, male or female, regardless of sex or gender,
Okay.
would be provided the facilities, the services that the RH law makes available. So if hindi sila hihinga ng marriage certificate, kunwari ganon. But if they are minors, then they should secure the
consent of the
Yeah.
parents
Yes.
or guardian. Okay. Our next question is from Rosario, and she asks, one of the reasons why RH law was so controversial was the inclusion of sex education to students. What kind of sex ed will the DOH propose or give to our students that will neither shock or anger parents but still keep the students well informed? Good question.
Yeah.
Under the law, grade 5, right?
Grade
Grade 5 is
Onwards.
mandatory.
Yeah.
They're required to get
To 4th year, right? Is that-
sex education.
Yes,
that
but
correct?
to answer the question, it's not only age appropriate but also development appropriate. So what people should really bear in mind is that the word shock really does not come into play because it's tailored according to the mental emotional development of the age.
Is this in the IRR, meaning at least what guidelines of these types of sex education will be
Yeah.
provided to certain grade levels? Is there an indication for parents? At least they have an idea what their kids will listen to when they send their kids to school.
Both in the IRR and in the law, there are guidelines, but the specifics that you're looking for, like grade 6.
This is what they'll
Like
teach.
will
you.
cover, kunwari,
Not yet. It will
grade
still
7
be-
will cover artificial family planning methods. Walang ganong...
The law wants a situation where there will be a dialogue between the parents in formulating this kind of curriculum and the
Yeah.
specifics for each grade level or high school level. So this will be in coordination with the parents still.
And also the Department of Education, I would
Yes,
imagine that
yes,
there will
the
be
DepEd will
some
be
kind of
doing-
IRR.
Okay, so at least for now,
Yeah.
parents don't have to worry yet. They will be consulted.
Well, yeah, they will be consulted.
Okay, so let's
We'll hear
take a
from them.
short break. Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders. Yeah. You're still watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel, and we are still joined by our guest, DIWA Party List Representative Emeline Aglipay. So good evening.
So, good evening, Em.
Good evening.
Yeah.
No,
we have to,
Talagang reviewing
yeah.
the law.
I just want to make sure that I'm answering correctly.
But we have to clarify though. Right
Yeah.
now, the law is suspended at the moment, right? They're saying
No more.
it's-
The TRO
Yeah.
has
The TRO has
already,
been
the
lifted,
injunction has expired.
okay, all
yes.
right. So
you,
now we're
Oo,
full speed
that's
ahead.
why it's very relevant now because one, yung question natin would be with the sex education, does this apply to also private schools or only public schools?
The curriculum that the DepEd will develop, actually, in the law, it provides that private schools may also adopt that curriculum, but then it's not.
Okay.
It's not
So if you're
mandatory.
sending your
It's
kid to Catholic schools
directory only.
that do not want to provide, for instance, this type of sex education that the DOH or DepEd prescribes, they
can-
have the freedom not to, pag private school.
Yeah, they can opt to develop their own reproductive health.
If they refuse to not include it in the curriculum, they won't be held liable, the private schools.
Since it's just directory in the law, may adopt,
Okay, so
may
it's
or
for
may,
public
may or
schools.
may not.
Okay.
Now, well, beyond the schools naman, sa mga, on the part of employers, di ba? Because one of the provisions, or at least connected to some provisions to the Department of Labor Law, is that employers are required to provide reproductive health centers or partnerships with reproductive health professionals to provide for the employees, di ba? Are you familiar with at least that side of the law where employers are required to provide free
Reproductive health
reproductive health
services.
services, information to their employees?
Well, previously, when we were still crafting the law, there was a provision that required employers to, if it's above 200 employees in the establishment, to provide reproductive health services and make it available to their employees. But then it was removed, and it's no longer found in
the law.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
but then it's found in the labor code. So.
So it's provided for anyway.
So what
In
are
the
the
labor code.
responsibilities of employers now? Are they required to, for instance, if they have employees who cannot afford artificial contraception or other family planning services, can they require the employers to fund or provide financial assistance?
Financial assistance, it's not required under the labor code, but making family planning services available in the establishment of the employer with about 200 employees is under the labor
Okay,
code.
if you're
requirement.
below 200, are you required to partner up with a healthcare provider, or not really? You can just not
Below
provide
200
this
employees,
benefit.
yeah.
Yes.
Below 200 employees, it's not
You
provided.
have to require it. Okay.
Okay.
No, we just
Small, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, were you? All right. No, I wanted to ask lang, no, and again, one of the, I guess, controversial aspects of it is that there seems to be some talk that this will give way to, or will open the doors to abortion and all that. But the law does provide, it's very, very detailed, no, when it comes to, I guess, supplies or medicine that would lead to an abortion. It's not, the law does not support that, right?
It's clear under the law, it's categorically stated that abortion is illegal, and the RH law does not in any way make it legal, or it's still illegal under the law. And the services, the reproductive health services, and that will be made available under the RH law are medically safe and non-abortive patients as approved by our
However,
FDA.
if
So
some-
just to clarify,
yeah,
morning after pills, is that
Yeah.
part of the types of contraceptives that can be seen by people if they approach, for instance, the DOH to get certain types of artificial methods of family planning? Is that one of those that they can expect to see or not?
Well, right now, the DOH has not yet defined which particular
Types of drugs, for
will be available.
Oh, okay. But others that are clear would be, for instance, contraceptions, like
OCPs, oral contraceptive
intrauterine
pills.
device. Okay. And how does this law make family planning and contraception accessible to the masses? So, for instance, now you have a married woman who, because of her religious beliefs, is okay with artificial means of family planning, but cannot afford to buy contraception, for instance. Where can she go? Is there an agency now that she can go to in her municipality or city to access certain types of contraception?
Well, the LGUs should, under the law, develop facilities, bring down these facilities. Health centers should be made available, barangay health centers and municipal health centers should have these information and facilities readily available to the residents of the local government unit. So, but of course, the law was just enacted, and it's not right away that budget would be funneled down, and
Okay.
these
there's-
facilities are still to be constructed.
Okay. So, dapat hindi naman magulat yung mga tao if they say, wala pa sa
wala pa.
barangay namin, or okay.
All right, we have other questions, Emma, from our viewers. Ron wants to know, aside from the DOH, what other government agencies will be assigned to handle the provisions and the needs of this law? I think we mentioned earlier the
Yes,
Department of
we did.
Education is part, right?
DepEd and the
Yeah.
DILG, especially with respect to partnering with the local government units to provide the facilities that will be made available to the municipalities and in the barangays.
By the way, I wanted to ask, reproductive health doesn't only cover situations where there's a pregnancy and all that. Let's say there's problems when it comes to fertility. Can they go to their public health centers to inquire and get information about
On how to have kids
how to have
naman,
kids naman?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the information that will be made available concerns reproductive health.
So it's
Not
not just-
only not only family planning, but also if they want to
have children.
conceive.
Yeah, conceive. Okay.
That's good, at least, diba?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
It's
just
not just
about
all- yeah.
limiting the children, but
Yes, of
also
course.
giving birth to
Not just
children.
about-
Yes, of course.
Preventing
Okay,
conception.
another
right?
question we have is
Oh.
from Amy, and she's asking, are all hospitals, clinics, health centers, and the like governed by this law? What if a clinic or two violates one of the provisions by not providing adequate information or services to the women in need? What possible violations would they commit, and where can we report them? So I think this is related to yung pinag-uusapan natin earlier. So what are public hospitals, public health centers required to give as opposed to private health centers and private hospitals? And if they refuse, how can they be liable?
So, like we discussed earlier, public healthcare centers are required to give everything, all the services that are mandated under the law, and eventually the medicine and the drugs that will be approved to be dispensed. So, if, for instance, a healthcare provider refuses, just like a typical case, they can file an affidavit with the prosecutor, and it,
Parang criminal case.
kasi yung question is, how will they report it, right?
Yes,
Where will
yeah.
they go? Yeah.
So they have to go to public prosecutor's office. It's like a criminal case.
like a criminal case.
Kasi may mga penalties na
Oo.
Yes.
imprisonment, no?
Fines and
Okay, so it's not like they can go to
Yeah.
the DOH and say, ayaw kong bigyan ng advice, or ayaw kong bigyan ng any contraception, or it's
It's
not
like a
the
criminal
DOH.
case because there are penalties,
Yeah.
imprisonment and
Oh,
fine.
quite interesting.
And then what if you have a child naman na you found out was given either information or any contraceptives without your consent, as kunwari, as a parent, and you have a minor, tapos nakakuha, and for some reason, I guess the center was negligent by not looking for the parental consent. Can I complain as a parent, and where do I go?
Well, it's still a violation of the law, so it's the same procedure.
It's to file.
Okay, you can go
okay.
to
Wow.
the public prosecutor.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right. Finally, wow, time's so fast. From Dawn, if a clinic violates the provisions under this particular law, what penalties will they be facing? The clinics. No? Are you
what
familiar
are
with
these
the penalties?
penalties? Can
What
they
are the
be in
penalties?
prison?
Yes, yeah. Well, so since they're clinics, they're juridical persons, and the president and the responsible officers would be held liable, whether it's because of an act or omission, something that they're supposed to do under the law that they did not do. So it's the president and the responsible officers, whether they allowed it to happen. In the IRR, it says that not doing anything to stop something that's not allowed or under the law, so that's also included. With respect to pharmaceuticals, their licenses can be revoked.
Wow.
Okay. And imprisonment, would you kind of know the range of how long they can be imprisoned if you're, for instance,
violate any of the
yes,
provisions,
you're a
1 to 6 months.
1 to
what
6
I
months.
remember.
Okay. So it's
Oh,
still
wow.
stiff, no?
It's pretty stiff.
Imprisonment, yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for tonight. We'd like to thank our guest, DWAP Party List Representative Emeline Aglipay, for
Thank
being with us tonight, and discussing the RH law. I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno.
And I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. Join us again next Monday as we discuss your legal rights. Good night.